We now come to the Alumni Achievement Award. It has to be an outstanding member of the Alumni School network. The purpose of the award is to honor alumni's outstanding accomplishments in public policy or public management over the past year. And the honoree must have demonstrated an innovative and dedicated commitment to the principles of good governance and must be celebrated, have been celebrated for their outstanding contribution to our field. So she has worked at the highest levels in very many foreign governments and international organizations, including World Bank, Inter-American Development President's Office, and the Ministry of Finance in Mexico, and the Ministry of Education in Peru, National Planning Department, and President's Office in Colombia, as well as the Cabinet Office, Foreign and Commonwealth Office, and Police Forces in the UK. It's quite a thing, actually. I mean, looking at you, you're not so senior. But Monica's work has been externally recognized by several academic and practitioner leaders across public policy as pushing boundaries in terms of the appellation of leading-edge behavioral science to increasingly complex public challenges, including recidivism. You probably explain that to us later. Anti-corruption, especially in Mexico, Colombia, and Argentina, and peace-building, obviously, in Colombia. From our point of view, Monica's story represents really the strong foundation of using evidence-based approaches and developing intersectoral partnerships to improve public policy outcomes. We will get much more insights into your work in a minute when you start and be part of our panel discussion tomorrow. The title coming out of your alumni circle. We love the title very much, tomorrow. Visionaries hacking the system and shaping tomorrow. So thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I might give you, now we need flowers. First of all, I'll give you the certificate. Very proud. Does Sasha come around?
Sorry.
Like this.
I wanted to start by giving you a little bit of context of what is it that I do and what are behavioral insights. Basically, behavioral insights is a concept that we use to refer to a number of disciplines, including behavioral economics, social psychology, and cognitive psychology. And if someone were to ask me to describe this in 2 sentences, what I would say is, or like what we do in 2 sentences, is incorporating a more realistic model of human behavior into policy design and using this like wealth of knowledge from the behavioral sciences to improve policies and their outcomes. An important part of what we do is also evaluate rigorously. So we run randomized controlled trials and we run experiments. And the team was set up initially in the Prime Minister's office in 2010, in number 10, Downing Street. The coalition government back then was being advised by Richard Taylor, who's the latest Nobel Prize in economics winner. And about 4 years ago, we spun out of government and we became a public-private organization. So that allows us to work internationally. When I joined 3.5 years ago, so we started in London, then grew, and from 4 years ago to now, we were about 25 when I joined. We're 160 now, and we are working all over the world and have opened up 4 offices roughly in London, Sydney, New York, and Singapore. And I want to go back to tell you why I got interested in all of this in the first place and why behavioral sciences mean so much to me. I grew up in Bogota in the 90s. That was one of the most violent periods of our recent history, and Bogota was one of the most dangerous cities in the world. Citizens then were terrified, they were distrustful, they didn't really know what they could rely on at that point. And here comes this mayor with a very alternative view as to how policies should be done. And he did a couple of things. I'll just give you 2 examples. One of them is those cards on the right. And the thing that he did with those cards is he gave them to drivers to give each other feedback. And I was about 7 years old when he did this. And I remember being in my mom's car with the cards and just playing around, showing them to everyone, like just very excited about the whole thing. And same with the mimes. So he contracted mimes as traffic officers because he realized that Bogotanians were terrified of making a fool out of themselves in public. And then the mimes would like follow people around when they were doing something wrong. So I saw this like behavior change, and you kind of know where I'm going to with this, while I was growing up, and I saw how like people started respecting each other, how they were like behaving in a better way just through these alternative policy approaches. I had never really thought about it in terms of like something I wanted to pursue or like something I wanted to do with my life. But then I came to Hertie and I took a course here called Governing by Ideas that back then was taught by Klaus Offe and Professor Kai Beckrich. And in that course, we saw MOCUs as one of the examples that we were studying to like a policy, alternative policy approach. And it just clicked in my head. It's like, this is what I have to do with my life. And then in one of the other courses, we also saw the behavioral insights team as one example. And then it was love at first sight, basically. I just fell in love with the whole concept. So I moved to London 3 years and a half ago. And I'm just gonna give you a little bit of like examples of projects that I've worked on since I've been there. The first one is a project that I led with one of the main police forces in the UK. And what we did is we changed the leaflets that were sent out with fines to people that were caught speeding on camera, explaining the reasoning behind the speed limits. And we reduced reoffending by 20% in 6 months just with that small intervention. Working in the Ministry of Education in Peru and with the World Bank, we did a project where we sent principals an email where we were telling them about the social norms with regards to attendance, and we increased attendance of principals by 5 percentage points with just that email. And then working with the Ministry of Social Security in Mexico and with the Inter-American Development Bank, we did a project where we sent letters to employers, and we increased the number of employees registered in Social Security by 20% just by telling them that we knew they had those employees and that they should register them. This is one project that is still ongoing. Is in Mexico, and the dots that you see there are actually health clinics all throughout the country. And what we're doing here is we're texting prenatal care advice to pregnant beneficiaries of Prospera, which is the conditional cash transfer program in Mexico. We have been doing this for 9 months. We're waiting for the babies to be born. We have messages up until the 40th day of the baby's life. And finally, I just wanted to tell you a bit of like where I'm taking this now and what I want to do further ahead and what I'm doing at Behavioral Insights team at the moment. So my two passions before Hertie and before behavioral sciences were peace building and violence prevention, as you've heard in all the introductions. And before I worked at a think tank in Colombia doing policy evaluations on conflict resolution. It's called Ideas for Peace. And then I also worked, I did an internship at the GIZ on crime prevention in South Africa, and I worked at the Anti-Corruption Center here with Alina, and I did my group thesis, which was wonderful, on anti-corruption. So it was kind of peace building and anti-corruption, the two main areas that I wanted to pursue. So I'm doing that now at BIT. I'm leading our work in anti-corruption. So we're just finished a program of work in anti-corruption in Colombia, Argentina, and Mexico. And then now we're starting to see how we can support the Colombian government in the implementation of the peace accords. And the last one, I just wanted to finish with this one, because I finally met Mocus last year. And when we were heading to his meeting, he has an NGO in Colombia, and in this NGO, we've been in touch, trying to collaborate. But when we were heading there, he was not meant to be in that meeting. And I told my colleagues, if he's there, you're gonna see me react like a teenager seeing a movie star, for sure. So he knocked halfway through the meeting, and my heart just started racing like crazy. I started shaking. And then he sat down next to me, and I just couldn't stop staring at him. I was like looking at him with my mouth open, basically, so didn't pay attention to the rest of the meeting. Then halfway through the meeting, I just stopped the meeting. I literally just went like, I'm so sorry, but I just have to say this. And then I turned around to him and I just went, I just need you to know that the only reason I am where I am is because of you. And then he just went like this and gave me a massive hug, which was really nice. So yeah, that's me, and I'm looking forward to your questions as well. Thank you.